Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Live at 4 on this Monday. Hope you all had a good weekend, a rough weekend in the news.
Yes, it was.
Let's get right to that. Here's what's making news today. White crosses reflect the number of victims of the weekend shooting in El Paso. In Dayton, Ohio, a memorial of flowers and balloons for the victims killed and wounded in that city. And we'll have reaction in the political world. We'll have thoughts from both the president and Wisconsin's governor. Let's take a look outside today. Another nice, warm, sunny day. Very humid. Yeah, a little humid, and things might be changing a little later today. We're keeping an eye on that. Maybe some severe storms tonight. Chris Reese is over in the Weather Center with an eye to the sky.
That's right. We are going to be watching that potential for some strong to severe thunderstorms, particularly later on this evening and probably right around and just after sunset. In the meantime, we're looking towards the west. You see some cloud cover out there. Temperatures are very mild as well. 84 degrees right now, but it is very humid. The dew point at 66. It's going to help supply a lot of moisture for some of those showers and thunderstorms to get going later on. We see a strong southwesterly wind. That's prompted Janesville to make it all the way towards 90 degrees. La Crosse has made it to 90 as well. Mineral Point at 86. So it's another very warm and very humid summer afternoon. There are no showers and thunderstorms over our area at the moment, but as we look towards northern Wisconsin, this is where we have seen more of those showers and thunderstorms developing and in action. But pay attention just towards the north and west of the Twin Cities. That is where a squall line is going to be developing, and then eventually more showers and thunderstorms will begin to develop as this pushes down towards the south and east. So later on, expect those showers and thunderstorms to move in from the north and west, and they'll really get rocking and rolling probably towards 8 and 10 o'clock and then come to an end just after midnight or so. First alert traffic as folks begin to head home for your afternoon. This is the Belt Line at Park Street right now. No major issues showing up. Traffic volume still flowing fairly smoothly. There's one incident being reported over towards Stoughton Road, but that's not causing any major delays so far as we walk towards the Belt Line and up towards the Isthmus. So far, we are keeping things in good shape. We'll see how long we can keep it that way going through the afternoon.
All right, Chris, we'll check back in a few minutes. Thank you. First at 4, families are planning funerals, politicians are pointing fingers, and the death toll is rising. The U.S. reels from twin mass shootings. 31 people have now died after the weekend rampages. We have reports from Chris Martinez in El Paso, Texas, and Natalie Brand in Dayton, Ohio. We begin with an update from El Paso.
Residents of El Paso placed white crosses outside the Walmart, each one honoring those who lost their lives in Saturday's mass shooting.
All of these are going to be written all over with messages, and I intend to give these to the families.
21-year-old suspected gunman Patrick Crucius allegedly posted a racist anti-immigrant manifesto on a message board called 8chan just before the shooting rampage.
They were being taken out in the carts. It was like back to back to back.
The death toll increased Monday after another victim died at the hospital.
The patient had major intra-abdominal injuries affecting the liver, the kidney, and the intestines.
Authorities say the shooter drove 10 hours to get to this Walmart here in El Paso. The city is 80% Latino, and it's at the center of a national debate on immigration.
Through 6 degrees, maybe 3 degrees of separation, everybody knew someone who died here.
The suspected shooter's family expressed remorse through a family spokesman.
We are devastated by the events of El Paso and pray for the victims of this tragedy.
Crucius has been charged with capital murder. The Justice Department is also considering whether to bring hate crime charges against him. Hillary Lane, CBS News, El Paso, Texas.
Caitlin Mouget returned to the scene of Saturday's mass shooting in Dayton for the first time. She's grateful she escaped with her life.
That's the most difficult thing with any shooting is why. And I don't believe we'll ever have a definitive answer, and that's something that we're all going to have to live with.
Mouget was nearby when police say 24-year-old Connor Betts opened fire, killing 9 people.
Hearing a weapon fired like that in succession like that, and you don't know where it's coming from, like literally running for your life was exactly what we did.
The gunman's sister, 22-year-old Megan Betts, is among the dead. Police believe the siblings had actually traveled to Dayton together, along with a man described as her companion who was wounded but survived.
It seems to
just defy believability he would shoot his own sister. But it's also hard to believe that he didn't recognize that was his sister.
Police are looking through all evidence here at the scene and reports that Betts had been suspended in high school after officials learned he compiled a hit list of individuals he wanted to kill. On Monday, a neighbor alluded to the gunman's troubled past.
I personally don't like to think anyone's capable of something that bad, but there was some instances of threats.
Police say the AR-15 style rifle Betts used was legal, but it was modified to function like an assault rifle. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Dayton, Ohio.
President Trump addressed the mass shootings in El Paso and Dayton this morning from the diplomatic room of the White House.
We are outraged and sickened by this monstrous evil. In one voice, our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy.
The president hinted on Twitter this morning that he may support new background checks, but he did not bring it up during his remarks. Democrats say the president's anti-immigration rhetoric helped stoke the racism and division, and that he should be held accountable.
Anyone who is surprised is part of this problem right now, including members of the media who ask, hey, Beto, do you think the president is racist? Well, Jesus Christ, of course he's racist.
Mitch McConnell needs to get off his ass, get the Senate back in session, and start passing some of these bills that we're sending over to him.
The House has already passed gun legislation that would require background checks on all gun sales and most gun transfers. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell blocked the bill from coming up for a vote. Congress is on recess and is not scheduled to come back until September 9th. Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers is reacting to the shootings in El Paso and Dayton.
Eric Franke joins us with how the governor wants lawmakers to take action. Eric?
It was 7 years ago today that Wisconsin saw its own mass shooting. Mark and Susan, that was at the Sikh temple in Oak Creek. 6 innocent people were killed by a white supremacist. Today, Governor Evers calling on state lawmakers to pass gun control legislation. Now, in the past, this has been something state Republicans have opposed. The governor says it's something that needs to be discussed.
Let's have a discussion instead of saying, oh my gosh, this is not the time to talk about it. Well, that's baloney. This is the time to talk about it. And this is the time that I think we need to look at to our legislator and our leaders, in this political leaders in the state, to do something proactive.
Well, the governor campaigned on overhauling the state's gun laws last year, and he says he would consider calling a special session and enacting new restrictions through executive order if the legislature fails to act. But it is important to note, though, that his powers to make such major changes are limited. Mark and Susan.
All right, Eric, thank you. Well, following the governor's comments, Wisconsin Democrats say they plan to unveil gun control legislation this fall.
But gun rights advocates say this is not the best way to prevent mass shootings. Our Rose Schmidt explains the solutions that both sides are offering. Rose.
Yes, well, we've seen gun control legislation introduced by Democrats before, but these proposals are unlikely to pass with a Republican-controlled state legislature. Representative Melissa Sargent says this fall she'll introduce a bill requiring universal background checks, a proposal that would allow people to remove themselves from the gun buy list, and the red flag law. The president called for a red flag law this morning, which would allow family or law enforcement to petition a court to take away someone's firearms if they're a danger to themselves or others.
Maybe in these situations, it wouldn't have changed the outcome, but there are many other situations, real situations every single day, that it would have changed the outcomes.
The day that we assign some mental health police to decide who can and can't own a gun, we might as well walk over to the Smithsonian, pull out the Constitution and drop it in the shredder.
That was the head of the group, Wisconsin Carey. He says the red flag law and background checks are not the way to prevent mass shootings and would not have necessarily prevented the tragedies in Dayton and El Paso. Instead, he encourages more people to get concealed carry permits and learn how to protect themselves if they encounter a shooter. Republican legislative leaders could not be reached for comment today. And on News 3 now at 5, we'll hear from Attorney General Josh Kahl. I actually sat down with him today.
All right, Rose, thank you.
Thank you, Rose. A Florida man who mailed 16 inoperative pipe bombs to politicians and to CNN before the 2018 midterm elections was sentenced to 20 years in prison this afternoon. Cesar Sayoc
targeted prominent Democrats, including former President Barack Obama, former Secretary of State and presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, and actor Robert De Niro. Prosecutors had called for a life sentence. They say the bombs, laden with explosives and shards of glass, caused widespread fear and panic. Defense lawyers urged leniency. They claim Sayoc is mentally ill and is sorry for the fear that he caused across the country. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo continues his visit to the Far East. Today, he participated in a wreath-laying ceremony honoring the citizens of the Federated States of Micronesia who have died in wars while fighting for the United States. The U.S. continues to be concerned about rising Chinese influence in the Pacific island nation. The memorial includes 10 photographs of Micronesian soldiers who were killed after 2001 in Iraq and Afghanistan. Pompeo landed this afternoon in the Marshall Islands.
Well, in some lighter news today, the Green Bay Packers face the Houston Texans in their first preseason game this Thursday night. But the two teams are having joint practices before that game, and the Houston team took part in a Lambeau tradition this morning, the Dream Drive, where players take a child's bike to the Don Hudson Center. Dozens of Packers and Texan fans gathered to watch the former UW-Madison football player and Pewaukee native J.J. Watt ride in the Dream Drive. ESPN is reporting that Watt broke the kid's bike and is buying him a new one. The two teams will play Thursday at 7 o'clock at Lambeau Field.
He's a good guy, big guy.
There's the busted bike.
Oh, it's kind of nice to see, good sportsmanship and teamwork like that.
Big guy on a little bike, that's not a good combo.
Yeah.
Well, there's more to come at 4. Our film critic Will Loper's in.
When we come back, we'll find out what he thinks of the Fast and Furious spinoff, Hobbs and Shaw.
And then coming up at 5, the Edgerton man arrested for a drunk driving death last night had a valid license despite already having 3 OWIs. Adam Duxter shows us why this isn't uncommon in the state of Wisconsin. Welcome back. Stocks closed sharply lower on Wall Street after China left its currency sink to the lowest level against the dollar in more than a decade.
That follows tweets from President Trump last week threatening tariffs on about $300 billion of Chinese goods. CBS News correspondent Tom Hansen breaks it down.
The sell-off on Wall Street was fueled by China's move to significantly weaken the yuan against the dollar. That makes Chinese products cheaper on the worldwide market, which can hurt U.S. manufacturers. That's making investors around the world nervous.
We're hoping that at some point that this bottoms out. I think it's going to take us a few more sessions to get there.
In a series of tweets, President Trump called out China, labeling the devaluation currency manipulation that hurts U.S. businesses and workers. All of this follows threats from the Trump administration last week of more trade tariffs on $300 billion of Chinese goods starting in September, effectively extending tariffs to almost all Chinese imports. The president says China will pay the price, but investors don't see it that way.
Those are going to hit the U.S. companies first, and there's going to be a little bit of time which they're going to be able to withstand that pain, but eventually that will trickle down to the consumer, and that's where the American public is very uneasy.
China also announced it hasn't ruled out the possibility of slapping tariffs on U.S. agricultural products. Tom Hansen, CBS News, New York.
And when the dust settled, the Dow Industrials fell 767 points, or 2.9%, closing at 25,717. The NASDAQ Composite Index plunged 278, almost 3.5%. And the S&P 500 was off 87 points, or almost 3%.
We're going for a ride! Tell me this is not happening.
Well, that was a clip from Hobbs and Shaw, one of the newest movies to hit theaters.
Is the Fast and Furious spin-off worth seeing? Here to let us know what he thinks is our film critic, Will Loper. Hi, Will.
Looks like my commute to on the Beltline every morning there.
Yeah, that's a good action scene.
Yeah, that should have woke you up. So unfortunately, though, this movie is 2 hours of two guys arguing who's taller, who has the bigger muscles, the bigger shoe size, shirt size, and everything else you can possibly imagine, with a little bit of action thrown in here and there. You're safe in skipping this one. So Idris Elba, he plays a cyber-genetically enhanced super soldier bad guy who wants to release a super virus that will kill most of the planet. It's up to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Hobbs and Jason Statham as Shaw to stop him. Only problem is Hobbs and Shaw hate each other and spend most of the movie exchanging insults that aren't terribly well written or clever. Now, when there is action, it's usually decent action, but it still doesn't stand up to the best of what we've seen in the Fast and Furious films. Now, this movie is aware of its own ridiculousness, but it doesn't really embrace it and go fully over the top. There is one, of course, really great action scene we saw at the beginning there where The Rock is basically pulling down a helicopter from the sky, but mostly this movie is just two grown men obsessed over their own anatomies.
Well, that can go a long way, I guess.
Oh, boy, not long enough for 2 hours.
If you look at the trailer, it looks like all action.
It does. I think they really cherry-picked and made this look just action-packed the whole way through, but really, it's too few and far between.
This is the first spin-off of the original Fast and Furious franchise?
Yes, The Rock and Vin Diesel weren't getting along too well, so I think The Rock said, you know what, I'm just going to go make my own movie and does not include you at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess his is bigger. What's the rating?
2.5 bald heads out of 5. This is a franchise that's been built on the foundation of bald heads, let me tell you.
So skip it.
Skip it, yeah.
All right, next week.
I'm off. So I'm going to take a little vacation.
Oh, good for you.
So no movies.
Enjoy your time off.
Thank you, guys.
See you in a couple weeks.
Yep.
Thanks, Will.
And we'll be right back.
You're watching News 3 Now, live at 4.
Well, take a look at this. A cattle drive in downtown Colorado Springs on Friday turned into a cattle chase. A steer took the wrong turn and escaped the Brand Cattle Drive at high noon. A couple of cowboys jumped into action. Bystanders jumped out of the way. The Longhorn made its way into a store. I don't think it was a china shop. A couple of folks tried to close the door. The steer eventually got out. It was wrangled by a cowboy. They got the beast. Nobody was hurt.
That was all over social media this past week.
Yeah, you don't want to get in the way of those.
No, you do not.
No, those horns are sharp.
The Tea Terrace restaurant in suburban London has a new employee, and her name is Teresa.
Teresa the robot, that is. And she's been programmed with the digital map of the floor plan and uses built-in sensors to avoid obstacles and to smoothly deliver food and drinks to customers. She cannot serve the treats from her tray, though. The guests have to pick up their food from the tray, but her creators say that Teresa will be able to do that in the future.
Well, I guess you save on tips.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Teresa.
True. Yeah.
You know, I don't know what a robot would do at a tip, but I feel like that's just an extra skill.
I guess so. Teresa.
Teresa.
All right, so we're keeping an eye on some storms, maybe.
Do you think we have a good chance of seeing some storms?
I do think we're going to all see some showers and thunderstorms at some point tonight. The big question is just when. And with it being summer, I know there are a lot of afternoon and evening outdoor activities. So stay tuned. Your full forecast is coming up next. It is an alert day here in the News 3 Now First Alert Weather Center as we are anticipating a line of some showers and thunderstorms to begin to move our direction, especially later on tonight. We're looking at high winds, heavy rain, along with the possibility of some hail. So yes, everything is on the table. Let's get started with the severe thunderstorm watch. A lot of this includes parts of central and northern Wisconsin. You're talking Green Bay over towards Stevens Point, Juneau and Adams counties included, same back over towards La Crosse. Now here in our immediate area, that severe thunderstorm watch is mainly confined up towards the north, but we're going to watch the areas not included. I would not be surprised to see this severe thunderstorm watch get extended a little bit further towards the south. And by the way, that does go until 10 o'clock this afternoon and evening up towards the north. No showers and thunderstorms for us at the moment, but where we are seeing the showers and thunderstorms is throughout parts of northern Wisconsin. Some non-severe thunderstorms over Green Bay. You do have some severe thunderstorms up just towards the north of Wausau. Then more severe thunderstorms just along that I-90 corridor coming out of southeastern Minnesota and working their way over towards Wisconsin. Notice how every single one of those little storms is severe. That goes to show the amount of instability that is already starting to build. Of course, we're paying close attention to that, and there's a lot of lightning coming in with those showers and thunderstorms too. Here's the severe thunderstorm watch box out ahead of that. All of this will gradually begin to move towards the south and east, and as it does so, it enters into an environment that is going to be even more unstable than what is already out there. So we do have an enhanced risk that is level 3 out of 5 for the severe storms. Then as you work your way just towards the south and east of Madison, it goes back down towards slight. This is because once you get towards the south and east of Madison, I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these storms beginning to weaken just a little bit. But again, the main risk that we're going to be looking for is damaging wind. There will be a hail threat, yes, but most of that's going to be towards western Wisconsin. There is a low-end tornado threat. You're talking a weak spin-up tornado is possible. Wind is going to be primarily what we're watching. In fact, that is the whole reason we have the enhanced risk due to the threat for some strong winds. In the meantime, plenty of sunshine out there. It's very comfortable, also very humid, but it feels like summer. That is for sure. The temperature topped out at 85 so far today. Normally, our high is 80, and we were at 65 earlier on this morning. We're at 84 right now, though, so our temperature has come down by a degree. The winds are still calm, but with the dew points in the mid-60s, folks, that's just going to continue to add moisture to the air. I'll show you the dew points again in just a moment over our entire area. Here's that strong southwesterly wind that's adding into the heat, that's adding into the moisture in the atmosphere. It helped bring Janesville all the way to 90 degrees for their high. You work your way back towards the west. La Crosse also at 90, Boscobel at 87. So yes, it is a very warm afternoon. And with dew points in the upper 60s and low 70s, when it comes to the humidity, yes, it can be a little bit uncomfortable out there as well, but it's nothing unheard of or nothing we haven't dealt with so far this summer. But let's time things out as these showers and thunderstorms begin to arrive. 6:30, you may notice some isolated showers and thunderstorms just towards the north. I believe all of this begins to work its way towards the south. Here we are at 9 o'clock with most of this starting to reach our area. By midnight, I do think everyone starts to see the showers and thunderstorms if you have not already. I also believe the greatest risk for the severe weather is going to be the farther west you are. Here we are by 2:30 in the morning, and a lot of that has then begun to push on out of the area. But notice those winds are going to be staying out of the south before the clouds begin to fizzle out somewhat as we move into Wednesday. How much rain may we see out of these? That's something else that we have to watch. It is the heavy rain threat. With all the moisture in the atmosphere, it's possible that some areas get upwards of 1 to 2 inches of rainfall, perhaps locally higher amounts in any localized thunderstorms, and Future Track is trying to show that possibility. So simply be on the lookout for that. But once we go beyond that, folks, we will have another cold front that'll bring a chance for some showers and thunderstorms as we go into your Wednesday. But then we're clearing out. In fact, by the middle of the week, things are going to feel very good. A little bit of some cooler air starts to dive in out of Canada. That'll take hold towards the weekend. Temperatures will begin to take a little bit of a dive by the middle and end of the week. We'll see a brief warm up early next week as well, but then another cold front is going to be coming our direction. In fact, as we go towards the middle and end of the month, odds are that temperatures will likely be more so below average as opposed to above average. At the same time, our pattern could become a little bit more active too. Look for a slight probability of those precipitation being above normal as we go through the middle and end of August here. But overall tonight we will be mostly cloudy with the showers and thunderstorms. Temperatures cool down to about 65 degrees. Into tomorrow, look for highs right around 82. We'll keep some clouds around in the morning, and then we'll become mostly sunny. We'll stay warm and humid into the afternoon. And here's how the next 10 days shape up for us, folks. We'll start to see that sunshine truthfully returning by the time we get you past Wednesday and into Thursday, through the weekend, perhaps early next week as well. The next decent chance of rain other than tonight won't come until next Wednesday.
Well, we could use the rain, but not the severe weather.
Yeah, I know. That's certainly something we've been talking about earlier. But I think tonight's rainfall should be very beneficial for a lot of folks.
Get through the evening commute probably.
Yeah,
and then
no
later,
problems.
later in the evening.
It's going to be later.
Okay.
All right. Keep an eye on things. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Well, if at first you don't succeed, try again.
The Frenchman who failed to cross the English Channel on his jet-powered hoverboard 2 weeks ago. Did you remember that? You missed that? Well, he succeeded this time around, and there were plenty of emotions involved. Cindy Palm reports from London.
Anticipation was in the air, literally, as Frankie Zapata took off from a French coastal town on Sunday with a crowd watching below. The French inventor was equipped with 3 things: a small backpack carrying kerosene, his hoverboard powered by 5 small jet engines, and determination to make this crossing a successful one.
Just to see him in the distance with my little binoculars was just amazing.
It was really high tech. It was amazing.
The former jet ski champion first dazzled crowds when he flew during Bastille Day celebrations in Paris. About 2 weeks ago, Zapata tried making the 21-mile journey across the English Channel for the first time. He fell into the sea after missing the refueling platform mounted on a boat, but he made adjustments for the second attempt, using a slightly different route and a larger refueling platform. After 22 minutes traveling at speeds of up to 106 miles per hour, Zapata successfully landed on Britain's southern coast. His wife, who was on the French side, waited for the phone call to tell her he made it. She's not the only one to let her emotions show.
Voilà, honnêtement, c'est beaucoup d'émotions.
My dreams came true. So much emotion. I really pushed it. It was hard. Zapata says it's unclear what the hoverboard might be used for in the future, but the sky is the limit. Cindy Palm, CBS News, London.
That's like something out of a movie.
Isn't that the coolest thing?
106 miles an hour?
And it's interesting to think about, what you could use that for. At sometime in the future, everybody flying around like that.
Before setting off, Zapata said that he had a 50% chance of success.
Yeah, it's really cool.
100% he made it.
Yeah.
Well, still to come before, a unique way to feed the homeless.
Gourmet food for the homeless. I'm Laura Podesta with details on how this food ends up in the hands of those who need it most.
Here's a live look at the UW campus from our Edgewater Skycam. Clouds out there, maybe some storms later this evening. A growing number of cities are feeding the homeless in a new way.
Laura Podesta reports on a young man who's leading the charge and why he wants your local restaurant to get involved.
I was just so hungry I couldn't focus on classes.
Growing up in Queens, New York, Robert Lee didn't always have enough to eat.
There were times when we would just have one bowl of ramen and that would be it for the entire day.
After studying business and landing a job as a banker, he quit to start the nonprofit Rescuing Leftover Cuisine, or RLC.
Thinking about people who are not having enough to eat when there's so much food around us that is going to waste really disturbed me.
RLC partners with roughly 300 catering operations, office cafeterias, and restaurants in 16 cities. Those companies donate food left over at the end of the day, and volunteers deliver it to local shelters.
Good to see you again.
The restaurant Proper Food handcrafts its meals each day and gives away what isn't sold. Dana Bloom is co-owner. How does it make you feel to give back in such a meaningful and delicious way?
I'm really grateful that we have such an easy way to be able to give back to our local communities.
U.S. restaurants generate an estimated 22 billion pounds of food waste each year. Many major chains are trying to change that, donating through charities similar to RLC. Robert says he distributes more than 1 million pounds of food a year. That helps people like Munoz Price, who found himself homeless after his landlord sold the building he was living in.
So, once you fill someone's stomach and they're satisfied in that area, they're able to think a whole lot more clearly about the next path or the next transition, the next move that they have to make.
Munoz is back on his feet, and he's joined Robert, volunteering his time to get these meals to those who need them most. Laura Podesta, CBS News, New York.
What a great idea.
Such a good idea.
Speaking of gourmet food, if you like lobster, Rockland, Maine is the place to be this week. The 72nd annual Maine Lobster Fest is underway. Thousands of people show up every year to enjoy Maine's favorite seafood. The world's largest lobster cookers on display. There are 7 cookers in all. Each one can hold more than 100 lobsters. The festival averages around 20,000 lobsters for the whole event.
How much melted butter?
Gallons.
Yeah.
I love lobster. Well, when Live at 4 continues, we are talking weather.
Chris and Chief Meteorologist Gary Canalti are here, and they're going to be answering your weather questions. If you have a question for Chris or Gary, call now. The number is 270-9933, and we'll take your calls when Live at 4 continues.
Columbia County Dispatch says crews are responding to a wind turbine that caught fire in Randolph. This video sent in from a viewer. The first report was called in around 3:40 this afternoon on East Friesland Road and Highway 33. We Energy says there is no threat to the public and it does not affect any of the other turbines in the area. Stay with News 3 Now for further updates.
Let's go ahead and get a look at your first alert traffic as folks begin to head home on this Monday. Right now, we'll start with a look at the belt line at Park Street. We are actually seeing some slowdowns now in both directions, but it's the eastbound direction that has the most slowdowns as of now. In the meantime, those slowdowns really begin once you get past Seminole Highway over towards Todd Drive. Those continue all the way just past John Nolan, the slowest area, moving at about 17 miles per hour right now. There's also one accident. This is coming in right around Stoughton Road, but no major delays are showing up from that accident, so that's certainly some good news. We're also watching the slowdowns at the intersection of Verona Road and County Highway PD. That intersection still under some construction, but thankfully things are expected to wrap up as we get towards the fall. In the meantime, your slowest route is going to be the eastbound belt line from Verona Road over towards John Nolan. That's taking you about 10 minutes, but once you get towards those highways where you're going outside of the city, so far, all routes are cruising along at their normal speeds, no major crashes or delays, so let's continue to take it easy and get home safe so we can see you here tomorrow.
Thanks, Chris. Gary is here now. We're taking your weather calls at 270-9933. A day of severe weather. We thought you guys had nothing to do.
I'm gone for 2 weeks. There's no severe weather, and then boom, it comes back the day I get back. So
don't you have vacation time to use?
Maybe.
Well, thanks for doing this with us, you guys. We appreciate it.
270-9933, the number to call. We'll start with Jane in Token Creek. Hi, Jane.
Hi, Jane.
Hi. We are going to the Top Shelf Taste at the Naughty Gal tonight. Runs from 6 to 9. Are we going to be okay?
Well, there'll be a line of thunderstorms probably sweeping through maybe toward the end of that time period. So that's something you really have to keep an eye on because those storms could bring gusty winds as they move on through.
And a plug for Madison Magazine besides.
That's right.
That's a twofer. So this is not a real major weather event coming, but it's going to be windy.
You know, if you have 70-mile-an-hour winds where you live, it's a major event. So
is.
you can't, it's one of those things that you just have to wait and see.
So, Chris, is that the line of storms you just showed that was to the north of us?
Yes,
that's
so
coming?
it's going to be sagging south as it does so, and there's more instability down here compared to what we saw up there. The storms just haven't begun to tap into that yet.
It's so humid outside. Is that part of what's making things so unstable?
That's it. It's good setup.
Yep.
And didn't Dave do a story about why it's so humid around here because of the corn?
Corn and all the rain that we had this spring, you know, that water is just sitting around and it evaporates when it gets hot. And so that just adds a little more moisture to the air and makes, heavier thunderstorms sometimes when they roll on through.
Our boss who just got back from Palm Springs, he was there for a week. It was 116 degrees and 40% humidity.
And they thought that was high humidity.
Well, that's at 116 degrees, 40% is high humidity.
Yeah.
All
Okay,
right.
let's see. Someone is on line 2.
I don't know who it is, though, so...
You want to go ahead?
Wait a minute.
It's
Betty.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Betty in Madison. Hi, Betty.
Hi.
Hi, what's your question?
I want to know, in the morning when they do the weather, if they would please talk about the allergies out there, not just weather. People are loaded with allergies, so they know how to go out and prepare for it.
As somebody who has allergies, very strong seasonal allergies this time of year, it's a question we get quite a bit, Betty. The problem is that people are affected by different allergens. This time of year, we're getting into ragweed season. We've got molds and some of the other pollens that are around. Some people are more allergic to trees and grasses, some dust and mold, and a lot of different things. So what affects one person may not affect another person the same way. And so we've discovered that pollen forecasts just are not very accurate because you might be able to get rid of some of the pollens because it rains, for example, but it doesn't improve the situation for everybody. People who have mold allergies, then their numbers go up. Yeah. So it's one of those things. People are affected by a lot of different things.
Is there a place somebody can go to look for that? Is there a website?
I haven't been able to find any really good sources around here. You know, and again, the pollen counts, you know, I've seen them in larger cities. They really mean nothing unless you know what allergen it is that you're looking at. You know, it's looking at the number of pollen grains in a particular area, but it doesn't tell you, is it ragweed, is it mold, is it alternaria, what is it? Yeah. You know, that number could be high, but it doesn't really mean very much unless you know what you're looking for.
And this guy knows what
Yes, he
does.
All right, we're waiting for a couple of calls to clear here. July, the hottest month in recorded history?
Globally.
Globally, yeah.
Yeah,
and that's something.
It's across the globe. One of the things that we've discovered is the past several years we've had globally warm temperatures, and this past July was just one of those really hot months for the globe as a whole. Europe set some records in terms of having high heat as well.
And not only that, Greenland had a lot of ice melt over the last just few days. Like I forget how many billions of gallons of water, of fresh water, just melted off of them because of record high temperatures. So, you know, again, that's a sign that the atmosphere is warming. You know, climate change is real. It's just a matter of, you know, how much it's going to affect any given area.
Absolutely. All right. Of course, now we have 4 calls and we're out of time.
Yeah, the phones are all out. Sorry, guys.
Thanks for calling, everybody. Thanks for helping out.
Sure.
All right.
We'll do this again, too. We'll do it. We'll do it soon.
Right. And Chris will have a final check of your weather coming up. It's the Chris Reese Show.
More of me. Hey, but we're talking about the possibility of some strong to severe showers and thunderstorms as we go through the overnight hours, and I know a lot of folks really want to know on that. I think the best timing of these rolling into the northern tier of the area, probably around 7:30. Reaching Madison probably around 9 o'clock, and then south of us as you work your way towards 11 and midnight. Lows will be around 65 tomorrow. We'll gradually see that sunshine return. Look for highs around 82. In the meantime, watch the sky. We do have that severe thunderstorm watch in the north right now. That's going to go until 10 o'clock. We'll see if that gets extended towards the south.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Tomorrow here on Live at 4, Consumer Report shows us how to deal with poison ivy.
And we go behind the wheel with Harvey Briggs in the first ever Toyota Corolla Hybrid. This thing gets 60 miles per gallon.
Unbelievable.
Wow, that's coming up tomorrow on Live at 4. In today's Final Touch, we take you to Russia for the annual traditional barge pulling festival.